you doing this?
I told you I am not.
You said you were just helping with taxes. She'd told me like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. That offhand line, so casual, so calm, stayed with me. Helping with taxes. A neat phrase for an ex who shows up on a Thursday night, brings a bottle of wine, lingers until after midnight, and leaves his scent on the guest towel like he had a right to stay. I nodded then, because I wanted to believe. I wanted to keep things easy. Maybe I was the kind of man who chose trust over confrontation. Maybe I was just tired of the fights. But the truth doesn't wait for comfort to catch up. This wasn't a dramatic reveal. There was no lipstick on a collar, no hidden camera, no explosive scene. It was smaller, receipts folded into drawers like secrets. A late-night gas purchase stamped 12:47 a.m. while she swore she fell asleep in front of Netflix. At first I parked the receipts in the probably nothing drawer inside my head. I told myself not to read betrayal into every silence. I didn't want to be the man who'd let old wounds shape every tiny moment. Still, the receipts kept lining up like punctuation marks in a sentence I didn't want to finish. One evening I glanced at her phone on the counter, no passcode, because she'd always said she had nothing to hide, and saw a missed call from Eli Taxes. I didn't know the name, so I scrolled back through the thread. 7 messages. I'll bring the wine, LOL. Where's that blue thing you used to love? That casual language hit like a quiet verdict. I didn't throw the phone, I didn't shout. I took a screenshot and emailed it to myself. That's when the idea of leaving moved from possibility to plan, not because I was furious in the moment, but because my self-respect started whispering. We'd been married long enough to have a history that mattered. We'd held one another through funerals, built Christmas forts, and woven small rituals that felt like home. Leaving would mean dismantling that life. It would mean legal papers, shared memory, and the dull ache of letting the familiar go. But the evidence mattered. If I was going to change course, I wanted it based on truth, not suspicion. When I asked her about Eli, she answered like a practiced actor, smooth, steady. Oh, him? He's an accountant now, just helping me with some forms. Her voice carried the kind of casualness that breeds doubt if you know where to look. That same night I made her tea, we watched a movie. She fell asleep halfway through and I stared at the ceiling, cataloging moments that suddenly felt like holes. Over the next week, the small things multiplied, wine glasses tucked away in the dishwasher, an odd perfume trace by the hallway, smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. I came home early one day and found her laughing in the kitchen, a laugh I'd loved, joined by a man I didn't know. He was tall, confident, wearing her apron as though he belonged. I introduced myself. He didn't meet my eyes. She put on a quick explanation, helping with taxes, reheating leftovers, nothing unusual. After he left, I kissed her forehead and went to bed, holding a storm inside. The next day I called in sick and started digging. Not the viral social media kind of digging, quiet, practical work. Bank statements, hotel bookings, a missed credit card she'd forgotten I could see. I printed pages, stacked them, and watched the pile grow into a manila folder heavy enough to hold my questions. Then Marcus from the hotel front desk texted a photo, her and Eli, hands linked in the lobby. The casual comfort in that shot was the final seal. It wasn't fury that woke me then, it was a cold, clear knowing. I didn't do something cinematic. I didn't burst into the hotel or smash a window. Instead I walked through our day like a man testing tiles for cracks. I continued to make coffee, to send banal texts, to tuck normalcy around the edges of a life I knew was unraveling. But inside, I started collecting evidence with a quiet, methodical focus: emails, texts, receipts, because if this was real, I wanted to face it with facts, not fog. One night, while she was in the shower, Eli sent a message: "Miss you already." Thursday again. Same room. I read it until the letters blurred. The water ran and the steam pressed beneath the bathroom door. I could have knocked and pulled the truth into the open. Instead, I sat on the couch and waited. She came out wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, soft and ordinary. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied. I patted the spot beside me and watched her settle, feeling like I was observing a stranger under a familiar roof. I cleared my calendar for a week and moved money quietly, canceled joint subscriptions, straightened accounts. I printed everything, not to pounce immediately, but so I wouldn't have to scramble for truth later. It became a ritual, sober, deliberate, a lifeboat being built plank by plank as the ship slowly tilted. I told myself I'd use the folder to decide. Confront, counsel, leave, one of those roads had to be right. The Thursday came. She put on perfume, dressed like someone who wanted to be noticed, then walked out the door with a practiced "I love you." I followed at a distance, not for spectacle but for closure. The hotel entrance swallowed them both. They moved with a familiar ease that made my chest ache in an odd, hollow way. I watched from my car until the lobby doors shut. No dramatic rescue, just a quiet, private witnessing. I drove home and opened the folder. The next morning I made breakfast. When she came down, blonde hair fresh, lip gloss neat, I handed her a photo of them in the lobby printed on glossy paper. The timestamp was circled in red. "What is this?" she asked. Her voice finally betrayed something: shock, then anger, then panic. "It means I know," I said quietly. She asked why I hadn't spoken sooner. "Because I needed to see what she would do, how she would choose." I slid the manila folder across the table. The pages inside were not a weapon, they were a ledger of truth. "I want a divorce," I told her. Silence. Then disbelief. "We can fix this," she begged. "Therapy. Talk. Anything." I'd listened to her promises after crisis before, they rang hollow now. I picked up one suitcase and packed the essentials, not to punish, just to set my life in motion. She pleaded. She tried to shrink the world to the size where apologies fit. I walked out the door. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized, clean, quiet, irreversible. She sent one long, remorseful email saying she'd made a mistake. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because I'd found something more important than settlement or spectacle: my own voice.